you've been very critical of people who are trying to suppress these protests at all, to which I would say I absolutely believe in the right to protest peacefully. I believe in free speech emphatically as you do. I think we're in agreement on that. But if people are going to do things like chant about an intifada, and I know you picked me up on X earlier about do I know the meaning of intifada? Well, here's what I know. There have been 2 intifadas involving the Israel-Palestine conflict, and it led to many thousands of deaths. But both were driven by violence. I mean, they weren't peaceful intifadas. By very definition, these uprisings were violent and involved extreme violence, particularly the second one, which involved blatant acts of terrorism. So that is my understanding of an intifada. There have also been many other things in the last 30 years in the world which have been dubbed intifadas. And the one common denominator is they've all involved violent uprisings. In fact, I can't think of, unless you can correct me, when was the last?
Yeah, I can.
When was the last entirely peaceful intifada?
So in 2011, in the Arab Spring, the Tunisians rose up peacefully. I'm sure you supported them, I did, against their dictator Ben Ali. The Egyptians rose up in Tahrir Square. I think you supported them, I certainly did, against Mubarak, against these dictators that we in the West had been supporting. Those were referred to. You can go back and look at the Arabic press. You can look at the BBC Arabic coverage as intifadas. We can go back further. In fact, we can go back to a violent uprising that we all supported. The Warsaw Ghetto, Piers. The Warsaw Ghetto, right? Polish Jews standing up against the Nazis. Do you know how the US Holocaust Memorial Museum describes the Warsaw Ghetto on its Arabic page? It calls it the Warsaw
But you wouldn't,
Intifada.
but you wouldn't categorize Mehdi.
Hold on, let me finish my point.
Okay.
Let me finish my point, and then you come back in. The Warsaw Intifada, we're not calling the Jews in Poland who stood up against the Nazis as terrorists. So no, I don't believe that intifada in and of itself is a terroristic or violent phrase. And the first intifada was largely non-violent for the first year. Palestinians were killed at a rate of 27 times the number of Israelis who were killed. Rabin, do you remember Rabin, Nobel Peace Laureate?
Yeah.
He said, break their bones. The violence came largely from the Israeli side in the first intifada. So just to be clear, that's what intifada means, uprising. These students are not calling for violence. They're not. If they wanted to, they'd call for violence. They'd call for suicide bombings. They're calling for an uprising, Piers.
Yeah, but they're calling for an intifada. They're chanting about intifada. And
Which you and I have a different definition of, and you're not an Arab, so with respect, I'm telling you, intifada is used for peaceful uprisings as well.